Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today I have a really, really special show planned for you. I am a fanatic about these home improvement shows and these real estate shows. I watch all the house flipping shows and the renovation shows. I am horrible at all renovation stuff. My wife fixes everything in our house. I'm crappy at it, but I love watching this stuff. And on a lot of these shows, they have people who flip houses. My guest today is Vince Stonesifer.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you.
Vince knows how to flip houses. He's done it multiple times, and I asked him to come in and share some of his wisdom and his experience with both of us that can really help us both learn how to flip houses and make some serious money. So again, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
So share with us the process, a step at a time, in how you find a house, what you do, what the planning process, so that we can kind of use your model as ours and maybe do the same thing.
So the good way to answer that would be is just to drive around. You as a homeowner, you kind of understand what the ins and outs are about the exterior of the house. You can tell visually about the home if there's something going on with it in terms of high grass, shutters that are falling off the side of the windows, things that just look out of ordinary, ways that you wouldn't keep your home. That sparks interest to me. And what I do is I take a handwritten approach to mail letters to these homeowners in hopes that they return with an email, a phone call, or a way of communication. And then from there, we take the next steps to set up a time, evaluate each one of these properties. So for example, my very first project was here in Carroll County, and it was a vacant home. I knew nothing about it, so I reached out to local individuals to help with making a contact, a point of reference to making a contact with the previous homeowner, only to find out it was bank owned. So it took a few emails, it took a few letters to be able to make a connection. And once we took those steps and had a positive outcome, we were able to do our interior evaluation. Now from the exterior, this was a townhome. So from the exterior, we can evaluate 3 of the 4 sides, because it was an end unit, and knew that it needed a lot of TLC, from siding, roof, gutters, downspouts, etc. Once we got in, we realized that the property was in total disarray. It needed everything from top to bottom. So we did a market analysis. We also had contractors come in and give written proposals. And when I have a contractor come in, I will have 3 or 4. I need to make sure that all I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and that we don't miss any corners.
Let me pause you there.
Okay.
When you drive around and when you look at these houses and then you try to figure out who owns the houses, if you could take us through what some of the steps are.
Sure.
That somebody that doesn't know much about real estate,
yeah,
and the secrets and the tricks and the tips and all that,
right.
What does a novice need to do in order to find out specifically who owns these properties?
Great question. So fortunately for us, this is all public record. This is all free to the public. I would also recommend that you consult a local real estate agent for that particular market, not somebody who is outside the county, may not be well adversed to this location, because you need to understand, once you're able to get that personal information, what comparables are selling for, because you don't want to over-evaluate or under-evaluate and over-improve. Otherwise, you'll be in the red, which is not where you want to be on these types of projects.
What kind of margin do you look for, before we get into the more specifics about how you do what you do? Is there like a benchmark or an expectation of profit when you look at a property?
Sure.
What's that look like?
So every project is unique in its own way, all right? Ultimately, at the very end, you want to be in the green. Now, you can always prepare for X amount of profits at the end, but I would say 25 to 30% profit is a realistic margin, especially for the Carroll County market. Now, when you get outside of the Carroll County market, closer to your big cities, Baltimore City, Washington, D.C., your evaluations are probably going to be a little bit more flexible just because of market trends. But 25 to 30% is a good number to keep in the back of your mind. And also, when you're going through your evaluations, it's always wise to have a buffer, at least a 10 to 15% buffer for the unexpecteds.
Right. Now, if that information you said is public, is there another way besides driving around that people can identify potential properties that they said, maybe that's something
Sure.
that I want to buy at a discount, improve, either sell or rent out? Explain that.
Absolutely. So Google is a great resource. They have everything from top to bottom. But there are specific search engines out there that will focus on bank-owned or distressed properties, even short sales, that you can narrow down your search and be able to evaluate these on an exterior visual drive-by.
If you, let's say for an example, the folks who watch these shows may not have $50,000, $150,000 in the bank. And again, there's a lot more that we're going to talk about. But I still want to get started, get more into this top part. And you're interested in flipping houses and you think that you have to have a lot of money in the bank. Is that true? And if it's not true, where does that capital come from to do this role of flipping houses?
Great question, John. The old saying, cash is king, all right? That does go a long way in this business. But there are a lot of hard money lenders, private institutions out there that will lend to individuals for these particular projects. A lot of your local banks, and another good resource if you do have equity in your home, to be able to use a home equity line of credit. We have found in the past through projects that you can have the money readily available to you, but you also get that tax deduction at the end for the funds that the interest that you use during these projects. It's also important to keep in mind what you use, you pay back on a timely manner, just so you're not racking up the interest on a monthly basis.
That makes a lot of sense. So when you do these comps, the comps where you find an agent that is a specialist in that region, what do you look for as far as making sure that the property that you're interested in is not overpriced or it's in the ballpark? I mean, lead us down that path of your thinking of what you're looking for in a market analysis.
Sure. So based on your renovation, you need to understand what the total completed renovation is. So if you purchase a house that's currently a 3-bedroom, 1 full bath, 1 half bath, for example, are you going to improve that house by making an additional bedroom in that house? Are you going to add another bedroom or a bathroom or even a half bath? If that's the case, then your evaluation at the end needs to be based on a 4-bedroom property, 2 full bath, and maybe 1 or 2 half bath, on top of the age of the house, total living square footage, okay? And then also how many days on the market did the comps, how long did it take for those comps to sell?
Have you found that people are more willing to let go or sell older properties or properties that you see as a possible flip that have been on the market for a longer time? Are they less likely to do business with you if they just put it on the market, or you drive by and it's not even on the market yet?
Sure.
I mean, explain that way of thinking.
Yeah, so a lot of times when you come across these types of properties where they may have been on the market for 200 plus days, there are databases, and a lot of those are accessible with a qualified real estate agent that they can send you. And then again, you can go on the tax records. Handwritten letters are always the best because they're more personable. So people are more willing to respond rather than an automated printout that you just stamp your name at the end and send out. They know that's a marketing piece. Handwritten letters are great, and then sometimes door to door is a good way to go too. Just your local area, just want to know if you would be interested in selling your property. If so, here's my contact, and then we'll go from there.
There's a lot of real estate agents out there, as you know. I don't know how many thousands in every state. How would a novice that would want to begin this career of flipping houses, whether it's full-time or part-time, how can you identify somebody that's trustworthy, that has a reputation, that's not going to see an opportunity that you saw first and then steal the opportunity from you? What's your mindset on that?
So finding a good agent is always important. And in this particular community, drive around and see whose name you see the most. Okay, it's a great way to see who's active in your community. You can request at any local realtor association a list of agents that are within a certain demographic. So for Carroll County, for example, pull up all the agents in Carroll County, and then you can go around and see the number of sales. Again, the internet, you can't always believe what you read on the internet, but there's a lot of testimonials that you can pull up as well. That's always a good way of finding good agents who know the area and who are quality people. That's the biggest key.
Because integrity is everything.
It's huge.
Because you've dealt with people before, I'm sure, I know I have, that their ethics are non-existent.
Correct.
So you don't want to build a relationship with people that have a reputation that's not so good, because eventually that reputation bleeds onto you. Right?
Another important piece to keep in with this is when you find an agent who you're comfortable with, when you find an agent who you want to build a business rapport with, it's important to stay in communication with this individual. For one, you need to know that this agent's just not going to be around because he sees the big green sign at the end, right. The dollar signs. That's not what it's about. It's about business rapport. It's about a good communication level and knowing that that agent is there for you from start to finish.
Very important, and I found out that the hard way.
Yeah.
Personally, I understand. So let's kind of jump through part 3 of this half hour, and that is looking for a contractor that has a good reputation. Because like insurance people, you all know who watch the shows, I've been in the insurance business for 30 years almost. And insurance people are not very high in the list of ethical people, at least in the public's eye. So to find a contractor that is reputable, that you would want to do business with long-term, can you explain that process that you went through to find either the one or a few of them?
Sure. So, I always chuckle when we talk about contractors because this is the most challenging piece to this venture.
Okay.
Not that they're bad people, it's just they're so busy.
Okay.
And then, as we know, time is money.
Yeah.
So when let's just say you take a loan out, you're paying daily interest.
Right.
And as that interest adds up, that's less off the profits at the end.
Right.
So you need to find contractors who are, for one, going to be loyal and dedicated to your project, not come for half a day and then go down the street to the other one they've promised to complete on X amount of days. Right. So that's the biggest challenge to me, is to find contractors who we have found and we've kept around. Now, we've let a lot of them go just because they had other plans. They were making their own decisions without consulting in the individuals involved with the project. So that's always a challenge. One thing, 2 areas that I would say that you can always find a contractor for individuals who are looking for something, home improvements, renovations. Go to your local hardware stores. Go to Lowe's and Home Depot in the mornings. On Saturday mornings or 6, 7 in the morning. It's the first place these contractors go every single morning. And simply ask for a business card. Simply ask, do you specialize in interior, exterior renovations? Are there areas that you don't care to partake in?
Right.
And that helps you generate a list of contractors that you can potentially move forward with.
How hard was it for you to find a core of contractors? I'm not even sure if you have one contractor or a dozen. I have no idea. So can you kind of explain how long it took you to find, or have you still not found that reputable set of contractors?
Right. So I wouldn't say reputable. I'd say that just consistency. Okay. And I'm still on that challenge. Okay. I'm still looking. I'm still calling. I'm still reaching out to the individuals who have assisted in different projects in the past for certain projects. Maybe not be the one from start to finish, but maybe come in for a piece of, a certain phase of the game. But, again, it's the biggest challenge. Contractors are a dime a dozen, but you need to find quality ones. You need to find ones who are licensed, insured, and not just a fly-by-night, because there's a lot of those out there. And what's going to happen is, when you go for the permitting process, which I think we need to talk about as well, these contractors need to put their names on the permits with the county. All right, so there are a lot of renovation homeowners, flippers that are out there right now that try to fly under the radar. You might be able to get away with that 1 or 2 times, But when the house resells and a smart real estate agent asks those contractors or the listing agent for the permits that were pulled for the updated plumbing, electric, structural, all that good stuff, and they don't have it, then you as a flipper, renovator, are in big trouble.
So you should walk away.
As a buyer, you should at least inquire, not necessarily walk away, because if the deal's good, it's deal's good.
Right.
It's what works for you as the buyer.
Right.
But knowing that everything was done completely up to satisfactory and up to par with the county, because every county has their own codes, that's the most important. Because you can't have, for example, electrical amperage. You can't have under amperage running certain units in your house.
Right.
Or plumbing that is the wrong size. You know, it could backfill into the bathroom or overflow your tub. So there's certain things you need to look out for, and making sure that your reputable contractor is licensed, insured, and does follow county code.
So as a flipper, when you are looking at a possible house or apartment or condo or whatever that you want to buy, before you found the contractor, do you require from the seller the updates that they've done in writing, or is that not part of your equation because you're going to flip it and renovate it anyway?
So a lot of these homes, I would say the majority of the homes that we've purchased, they have all been as-is sales.
Okay.
Okay, so it's either a distressed property, a property that's underwater, a bank-owned property, a short sale. It's not going to be your standard typical sale in the market where you as a seller are trying to get top dollar and sell from there. When you go into these, you're looking for something that the seller is willing to accept, but you know at the end of the day, based on your contractual evaluations with your contractor, that the numbers are still in your favor.
So when you go around driving to find these houses are probably not on the market right now because you're doing the homework prior to
That's right.
the seller realizing that I need to sell this house.
Right.
So do you bring in a real estate agent to partner with you to do the contracting from the seller's side, or do you have a contract written up between you and the seller at the time? How would that work?
Yeah, so you always want to be represented by a real estate agent, regardless if it's a standard sale, short sale, bank-owned sale, whatever the case may be. Your real estate agent is licensed through the state of Maryland and also nationally. So they're going to know the updated rules and regulations. What you don't want to find yourself is stuck in a corner without any way to be released from the contract.
So you wouldn't draw up an agreement as a buyer to a seller independent of a pro that knows the real estate industry inside and out, correct?
I've never done it that way.
Okay.
Only because I want to make sure that what's the contractual agreement between buyer and seller, what takes place and what moves forward, is not a shady deal. I need to make sure that all I's are dotted, T's are crossed. I have a title company that's involved to make sure there's no liens, encroachments, anything prior to me taking possession of that property.
Title is important.
Title's
obviously.
huge.
So do you go through a phone book, or have you built an agreement or a relationship with a few different companies that do the title searches? How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So depending on the transaction, depending who's involved, there are multiple title companies that I have to choose from.
Okay.
There are some that are better than others, some that specialize in bank-owned short sales that are a little bit more stronger than others. So depending on the purchase and depending on the type of transaction it is, I have readily available a handful of local title companies.
Okay, so let's talk about now how you crunch the numbers from, you drive by a neighborhood, you see a rundown house with the grass 3 feet high, shutters broken off, doors halfway open, windows cracked, roof needs replaced. You approach the seller with an agent. How do you put that math together? You told me earlier that you want to have a margin of X, Y, and Z. What other numbers go into that calculation for you as a potential flipper to see this is something I'm interested in, or it's just not enough? Right.
So it's going to be that type of scenario. It's going to be based on location. All right. What's this town or city? How are properties selling? What's the income levels? All right. Because the seller has to be willing to accept a certain number based on real numbers. All right, not just some fictitious number that we're just going to throw out and see if it sticks. Okay. So as we drive by, the honest answer to that is from experience. All right, through contracts and renovations in the past, we have a good idea of how much it's going to cost to put new siding up, shutters, gutters, downspouts, a roof, depending on the style of roof. If any plywood has to be replaced, is the exterior, does it need new concrete? Does it need an excavator? So there's a whole list of check boxes that need to be checked, and mentally we can kind of put some numbers there, but until you actually get in with a contractor, get hands-on, look in the crawl space in the attic, you really don't know, but you can get a general idea of just on the exterior what you're looking at.
So if you were to follow your advice and find a reliable agent that knows the market, knows the area, they can not only help you with the purchase of the potential flipped house, but once you renovate the house, they can also help you market the house to get the best price for that area. Is that correct?
Absolutely, 100%.
Next question for you is, there are people that I've met over the years that for some reason they will flip houses 100 miles away from their geographic area. In your experience, is that wise? Or or does it make more sense to be within a certain amount of miles from your own house?
Absolutely, great question. So for me personally, only speaking for me, I like to stay in the county, I like to stay in a demographic and cities that I know, cities that I grew up in, cities that I could close my eyes and drive through. That helps me on a resale purpose, that helps me understand the common trends, how to modernize a house, if that's what it's calling for this specific home. But for me, I like to stay in my hometown. I like to understand what's going on here.
I think that's smart.
I feel it's wise.
If you're going to flip a house, I've never flipped a house, so please understand I don't know what I'm talking about right now. But wouldn't it make sense that you want to have your hands on the projects? Whereas if it's 100, 200, 400 miles away, there's no way you can really see weekly or daily what's going on.
Right.
Is that right?
It's very true. It's always good to be present, just to know if your contractors are showing up or not. If you're rehabbing a home that's 50, 100 miles away, you can't be there every day. Not with reality, not with life, not with your 9 to 5. So you got to be able to go, come and go as needed. Know that your contractor's showing up on time. I think it's the biggest part. Just making sure that there is accountability. Making sure there's a time schedule, a time frame that everybody is aware of. So stay local, especially when you're first getting started. It's important to be able to have that short driving distance.
Would you recommend that you give your contractors a schedule? Because I know contractors tend to want to be independent and come and go as they please. Do you do that? Do you say, by this time I want this done, or is that?
I think it's very important.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always good to have, if you're going to renovate a house, take a permanent magic marker and write on the walls. Walls are either going to be tore out or painted over anyway. So that gives them a visual every time they walk in. Really? It's good to keep things in check. And one thing it's also good to be hard and stern, because you hired these individuals to do you a job.
Right.
And if this was a renovation that you feel that you could have taken on yourself, well, you wouldn't be hiring outside third-party sources.
Agreed. All right. In our last moments here on the show, talk about purchase options.
Okay.
What options are there for us newbies that are very interested in it, but want some other ideas? Sure.
So when I first got started, fortunately, I had an LLC already established.
Okay.
A lot of these banks, a lot of your local banks, are going to require you to at least have an LLC established at least 1 year. They're going to want to make sure that when they do financing, they're not going to, you as an individual, as a purchaser, aren't going to want it in John Carver's name. Okay, you're going to want it in your LLC names. God forbid anything happens, it goes to the LLC.
Okay.
Okay, and that's usually one of the requirements for these banks, is to do all the financing through the LLC. A local bank, for example, they're only going to invest up to 75% of that purchase price, but they will cover 100% of your renovation cost, which is a great feature to have. Some of your hard money lenders will lend you 100% financing, and also cover 100% of your renovation cost. That method I have used in the past, but you also got to make sure that your numbers are in check. You know, it's very easy to start putting in some different amenities throughout the house that over and blow out your budget. Those extra costs come out of your pocket at the end of the day. Now, with these purchase options, local banks, you know, with a certain amount of money down, your rates are going to be lower, and they're going to be charging you interest only, which is your lowest possible payment each month. The private money lenders, this is money out of their personal pocket, so you're going to get rates 10 to 14% interest only, with maybe a few points up front, but they're assuming all risk.
Right. Vince, this has been a lot of information crammed in a half an hour's time frame. I want to thank you for being on the show.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
This information you can use every day, so watch this over and over again. Vince's email address is right here, so feel free to email him, pick his brain, ask his advice. He does this all day long, every day. So thanks for being on the show again. I appreciate it a whole bunch.
Thank you, John.
And please leverage this information in your own life. I know I am, for sure. And hopefully you'll be able to do a lot of what Vince does every day. Thanks for watching. We'll be back real soon. Take care.